Hi, we've got another lovely interview with Thomas.
Greetings. Hello. Yes.
And today we'd like to chat with you about paradise in your garden and how you can create it with looping the cycle of water and reusing it 5 times in your garden. What is the importance of water in our lives?
Well, as we touched on in the last few episodes, water is life. We are mostly a walking column of water. So the more we have energetically resonating water that resonates with our own energy, the healthier we are, the more we can create an environment in our gardens, in our closest vicinity, that has this resonance within it, the healthier we will be, both in body, soul and mind. And I think we'll see that very quickly when we start developing this paradise around our house. If we have children, how our children respond, how we respond, how our sleep patterns will respond to an environment that resonates more with our true being.
Yeah. And obviously this is achieved through recycling, or let's say upcycling, of the water cycle. We've mentioned in the first video a few ways of how we can reuse the water, being in a constructed wetland or such as behind us, and Thomas will explain just now about it, or like what I'm doing, simply just using the bath water from the tank, and then I'm just irrigating straight, and I'm using it every day. In fact, I don't even have enough grey water currently to irrigate my garden, so I'm using up 300 liters within 5 minutes, and then I quickly run up and have a shower, bath, and then I have more grey water to use. So what is the significance of water in our garden, and how do plants resonate with alive water versus irrigating from just tap water? What is the significance of this living life force with bacteria and microbes and living water?
Yeah, look, I mean, plants would respond even more strongly to water that is not laced with chlorine and other chemicals, because they're even more water than we are.
Yes.
So when you recycle your water through a very simple wetland that you see here, which is basically a recycled tank and some gravel inside, and here I'm growing some Job steers, but it can be any reed or aquatic plant, and with their microbes around their root system, they condition the water beautifully, that then the bananas or the general garden down the pipe responds very healthily, and you, I guess, have an extra bit of advantage in recycled water, in that you have some of the nutrients. These plants don't take up all the nutrients that might come through the water from you washing off the skin cells and the creams and the things that we have. Some of that will get into the garden, and the soaps, which is phosphate, a lot of phosphate in it, especially your clothes washing water, and that has a beneficial effect on the plant as well as a nutrient.
So just help me understand here. What you're trying to say, Thomas, is that plants don't see it as washing powder and soap and skin bits. They see it as nutrients. And as far as I know, nutrients are good for the plant.
Yes, and look, I mean, we do look that we get as much as an ecological soap or washing powder as possible, because you know they throw such a lot of other chemicals into washing powder these days, like optical whiteners, which really just they trick your eye into seeing that something is white, for example.
Wow.
Because the light reflects nicely on your clothes. It's not necessarily that clean, but it tricks your eyes into that. And these things we don't need in our garden really. But yes, you know, the phosphates that they use to make the water softer and so that the water can penetrate better into whilst you're washing your clothes, those would be beneficial in a soil garden environment. If it would be a water garden, that's a little bit more of a problem, because then we get a lot of algae growth. So, but if you use it in your soil garden, it is basically a fertilizer.
So, I flew 2 years ago to America to learn how to build earthships and wetlands, and they're not using any ecological soaps. They are growing food in their constructed wetlands. So I believe this tank on the left here can filter some of the harshness away. Obviously, we don't want to be pouring jig down our kitchen sinks and so on, and harsh chemicals. But general, Pantene soap and sunlight liquids, the wetlands can process that.
Absolutely.
Especially with a little pre-filter like that, and some maybe sturdier plants, not maybe even food plants as a starter, but something ornamental that can process the stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, we have, there's a lot of research has been done over the last 50 years in what wetlands can process, and I mean, there's not a chemical harsh enough that couldn't be processed through a wetland. Sometimes it kills off even the plants, but the new shoots that would come up are resistant to the chemicals. So they create new cells, hydrocells they call them, that sheath the new shoot that's coming up and protect it from the harsh chemicals that are poured in, and they balance that out within hours into something that is not a problem in further down. So microbes are the ones that do the work, and they live around that root system, and they are able to crack these chemical compounds, these other chains of different chemicals that are connected, and they're very often very hard to break apart, and that's why we talk about persistent chemicals. Chemicals that don't easily break up in their simple building blocks of nature, N, P, C, H, S, and so on. Yeah,
yes, the elements.
The elements, but the microbes on that are around the root sphere of the wetland plants, they are the wizards. Because that's food source for them, and therefore they're quite keen in making their meal with the different chemicals, the simple building blocks that they can also easier absorb.
Yeah. Can't help to notice, but the bird life in this garden is just phenomenal. I mean, we're in Johannesburg North, and just outside here, we're on the edge of Johannesburg. There's really not a lot of bird life, but as you can hear, there are so many birds in this garden. Thomas, could you just touch on what's your experience from when you moved in here to now that you've created, I believe, 6-7 pockets of water and quite a few trees and fruit trees and herbs? What has been the difference now?
Yeah, look, what you will do, obviously, once you create your paradise, you create different niches. And
what are niches? Just explain to us.
Niches, really, they're just pockets of where nature creates, or we recreate after nature, specific plant communities.
Okay.
So you would have a herb bed, for example. You would have a wetland. You would have some indigenous trees along your boundary. You would have some fruit trees. You would have some your compost area. You would have a rockery. And all those will attract different, well, from the insects to your amphibians, different frogs, different, you know, even in a property that's completely surrounded by walls, and you put a pond in, it doesn't take 2 days and you have a resident frog.
Yeah,
How they find that is quite amazing. But so there goes your sleep, I guess,
Yeah.
during mating season. But also the variety of birds that come in there, obviously to look for food, which the insects that go into the different niches will provide, is quite amazing. So we have resident birds, different, maybe 10 different types, but then we have lots of the migrating birds coming through. Even at night we have Cape eagle owl sitting in our day tree, going for the rats in the squatter camp, I assume. But we hear her very often. So
Beautiful.
and yeah, then through the season you have many visitors, winged visitors coming past.
It's just phenomenal to see the different shades of colors that change throughout the year, and so beautiful for the eyes. And here in Thomas's garden, to hear the water flow, the water is so beautiful. You just see with the birds, it just creates a song for the heart. And I mean, Thomas, I believe you know you're quite a healthy fellow from experiencing all of this.
Yeah, but I think the main thing that we want to bring across here really is also that when you become more connected with the earth, when you become more connected with the plants, with the animal life around you, I believe you become a more whole human being. And that especially you can see if your children grow up in an environment like this, they react quite differently to their fellow children, to their fellow men out there. So for me it has a great significance, this connection with nature on a day-to-day basis, not just once a year on holiday or over a long weekend. So on a daily basis there is a connection, and you can establish it. We are from nature. We forget that. We are part of the creation, the natural creation, and therefore our whole psychology depends on a healthy relationship to nature as well. So for me that's the significance of a garden like this, that when you get depressed, sometimes you need a bit of a kick to get into the garden, but if your partner also tells you, now you're not feeling so well, go and do some weeding, or go and cut some flowers, go into the garden.
Beautiful.
That is almost way better than Prozac or any mood enhancer, mood stabilizer, and it's for free.
So once established, the garden shouldn't really take more than an hour and a half, a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon.
Yes. Yeah, and that is during the main planting season, for example. So twice a year or so you spend a little more, and then once it's all growing, you go there to harvest and to water, possibly if we don't get any rain. So it's as you say, once it's established, and you probably could say, within a year you would have it established in such a way that then there's just continuous maintenance happen. And with the annual plants, you're gonna have to replant those, but your perennial herbs and fruit trees and other trees, they just keep on growing.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, imagine that, just putting something in and just watching it get bigger and bigger. And if it happens to be a medicinal or a fruit tree or a nut tree, suddenly you have 300-400 kilograms of a specific fruit. And if you've got 7 or 8 of those trees, you could have fruit throughout the year, except for the very cold winter months. But there is something to eat throughout the year. I mean, even coming to Thomas's garden, seeing pumpkins and always tomatoes lying on the table, and lots of other things. I believe you've put in some apple trees now. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you. Yes. Goodbye.
Would love to hear your stories. Share with us your experiences from your garden and ask questions. Let's start the conversation. scroll below and leave a comment. Would love to hear from you. Bless you. All the best.